Star Trek, Primitive Passenger, Season 6, Episode 3. Nolan's Big Day. Nolan Mercer woke in his secret suite aboard Empire North, the repurposed Cardassian station he now called home. As he moved through his lavish quarters, he methodically checked his pads and display screens, tracking the overnight cargo movements, the comings and goings of ships, and updates from across his vast empire. No way. Nolan's eyes gleamed as he clicked through the information on one of his pads. "Yeah, baby," he exclaimed, a rare show of excitement breaking through his usually stoic demeanor. Now fully dressed and ready for the day. Wait. He grabbed a couple of large furry balls and stuffed them in his pocket. "Let's go." He double-tapped his comm badge and vanished in a shimmer of light. Nolan rematerialized on the promenade of Deep Space Nine, right between the security office and Quark's. With a purposeful stride, he started towards the Ferengi's establishment. "What have I told you about inviting yourself in?" Odo's disapproving voice came from behind him. Nolan stopped in his tracks. He took a deep breath, put on a big fake smile, and turned to face the station's chief of security. "Odo." "Great to see you," he said, extending his hand. Odo leaned away from Nolan, crossing his arms. "I've told you repeatedly that you have to come through official channels. You can't just beam in and out of DS9 like it's your own personal space station," he said with disdain. Sorry, Odo. Bad habit, I guess. You know I have one just like this, right?" Nolan's eyebrows raised, the fake smile still plastered on his face. "By the way, that offer to head up security at Empire North still stands. I'm quite happy where I am, thank you." Major Kira exited the temple and walked in the opposite direction. Odo's eyes darted toward her before returning to Nolan. "Well, I can certainly see why, Constable," Nolan said, casting a quick glance back at Kira before heading toward Quark's. "We all have our predilections, after all. If I were you, wild horses couldn't drag me away." Heading toward Quark's like he was stealing third base. Odo's look of disapproval couldn't be overstated. Entering Quark's, Nolan looked around and spotted the Ferengi barkeep coming from the storeroom. Quark noticed Nolan, his expression cycling through surprise, wariness, and finally settling on cautious interest, a familiar routine whenever Nolan appeared. They met at the bar. "So, what can I get for you, Mr. Roommister?" "Mercer," Quark said with his best bartender charm. "Maybe some Nausicaan disruptors. Orion dancing girls. Or are you in the market for another moon?" He poured Nolan a root beer. "Well, now, you can never have too many disruptors, dancing girls, or moons. But today, my friend, I have something for you." Nolan raised his glass to Quark. "Special. Give me some good news for once, will you? Our last deal wasn't exactly a profit bonanza, if you remember." Quark's tone was exaggeratedly exhausted. Nolan jumped up, downed his root beer like a shot of tequila. "Come with me. I've got something to show you." Quark, facing away and polishing a glass, replied, "In case you haven't noticed, I have a business to run here. Besides, the last time you said that you showed me a cargo hauler full of rotten yamok root, and the time before that, dead Drandor goslings. You've shown me quite enough, thank you." "Quark," Nolan leaned in as Quark turned around. "I want to show you something that fewer than a dozen people in the galaxy have ever seen. And no Ferengi could ever even imagine," he said, exaggerating his facial expressions. Quark rolled his eyes. "Well, if it's a cargo ship full of rotten food, I'll pass, thank you very much." "You prior, come on," Nolan said enthusiastically. He grabbed Quark's elbow, double-tapped his comm badge, and they both disappeared in a shimmering light. "You can't just, I hate it when you do that," Quark protested. They were on the bridge of the Havoc. "Alara, can you take us to the exciting, new, awesome, ultra-fantastic?" Nolan spoke to Alara while looking at Quark. "Project 2680. The ship blinked. Through the view screen, they saw one ship coming in and one ship going out of a large mining operation on a barren, rust-colored planetoid." "Oh, come on, Mercer. Another one of your filthy mining operations in some hellish part of the galaxy." You know how I feel about stuff like this. Ugh, I feel like I need a sonic shower already. Zap us down, Ilara. No, Quark protested as he vanished. Nolan and Quark materialized inside the mine, the clattering of machinery filling their ears. Quark winced, and Nolan pulled a pair of Ferengi-sized earplugs from his pocket. Conveyor belts whirred, carrying chunks of ore past Neos in hard hats tapping furiously at their consoles. The air was thick with the scent of machine oil and dust inhibitors. The buzz of activity surrounded them. "All good, sir," shouted the mine's foreman, Marcus Des Moines, over the background noise as he came around from behind his console. His big smile grew. "We started shipping 12 hours ago, and should have refinement in place within the week. I think we can still do it on site." "That's outstanding, Marcus. Then keep at it." Nolan shook the foreman's hand. "Keep the updates coming." The foreman nodded, his hard hat reflecting the harsh overhead lights. "I'll keep you updated on that other thing too, sir." Nolan handed Quark a dark gray rock with shiny veins running through it. "And why am I here again? Why am I holding a big, dirty rock?" Quark's face dropped. He looked at the rock intently. "Are you?" "But Quark put the rock to his face and took a long, deep inhale through his nose. Then he licked the rock. Quark's dumbfounded look was one for the books. "That's the reaction I was waiting for." "You have a latinum mine?" Quark's eyes nearly popped out of his head. "You have a latinum mine." Nolan's smile was huge. "You have a latinum mine. You have a latinum mine. You have a latinum mine." Quark's disbelief was palpable as he began picking up and examining many different rocks from the conveyor belt, carefully piling them in his arms like lost children. "You're the only person I know who could truly appreciate this." "Quark, old buddy," Nolan said, slapping him on the back, "you're a Ferengi standing in a latinum mine." Back at Quark's, Nolan and Quark sat at one of the upstairs tables. Quark rolled a meatball-sized rock between his thumb and forefinger. "I don't know what to say, Nolan. You've really outdone yourself this time." He still had a hint of disbelief in his voice. "You know, this changes things, don't you?" "True that, brother. I haven't even begun to figure out the ramifications yet. But I'm not finding much downside. Needless to say, this stays between us for now." Nolan leaned forward. "No kidding. This could crash the value of latinum. Galaxy-wide, you could make me poor. You could bankrupt Ferenginar." Quark suddenly realized. "Don't worry, my empire runs on latinum too. I'm not looking to crash anything." As their conversation about the newly discovered latinum mine wound down, Nolan's comm badge chirped. He tapped it, listening intently before responding. "Understood. I'm on my way." Turning back to Quark, Nolan stood, his expression a mix of determination and caution. "Duty calls, my friend. Keep this under wraps, yeah?" With a nod to Quark, Nolan stepped away from the table and tapped his comm badge twice. In a shimmering of light, he vanished from DS9, leaving behind a stunned Ferengi bartender still rolling the small rock around in his fingers. The familiar surroundings of Empire North materialized around Nolan. The repurposed Cardassian station hummed with activity, a stark contrast to its state when the Cardassians still owned it. As he strode through the corridors, his comm badge chirped again. "Mercer here," he responded, his tone casual. "Mr. Mercer, it's Tanya DeSoto from Horizon," came an excited voice. "We've done it. The first batch of coffee is ready for your approval." A small smile tugged at the corner of Nolan's mouth. "Excellent work, Tanya. Can you send it over?" Moments later, a large bag materialized in Nolan's private quarters. He made a mental note to sample it later. Continuing his walk, Nolan nodded to passing Neos who greeted him with a mix of respect and familiarity. He approached a nondescript section of wall, placed his hand on a hidden panel, and a door slid open, revealing a secure corridor leading to the research labs. As he entered the main lab, 3 figures hunched over a complex array of equipment looked up. Dr. Liz Aldean, her reddish-brown hair pulled back in a disheveled ponytail, broke into a wide grin. "Nolan, I'm glad you could make it. We've had a breakthrough with the phase variance compensator. Natima Colmack, the Cardassian scientist, nodded in agreement. Indeed, the latest simulations show a 37% increase in extraction efficiency. She put up a hologram showing the device and its interaction with a full transporter system. I think we can get to 50% or better within a couple of days. Gilora McCore, the other Cardassian researcher, pulled up a larger holographic display. We're projecting that, with these modifications, we could potentially extract pure metals and minerals from underground deposits without disturbing the surrounding geology. She turned the hologram and pointed to two different components attached to the system. Nolan examined the data, his expression neutral. Impressive work. Have you considered the potential applications for Minor 2680? The three scientists exchanged glances. Liz spoke up. We hadn't specifically tailored the algorithms for that particular mineral, but with some tweaks. She trailed off, already lost in thought. I've already got Marcus Des Moines on 2680, and he's been working from your updates. Make it a priority, Nolan said, his voice carrying the weight of command despite its casual tone. If we can perfect this process for that specific extraction, the possibilities are significant. As the scientists dove back into their work, Nolan's comm badge chirped again. Mercer here, he responded. Sir, it's Marcus from Minor 2680. We've got some promising results from the field tests you might want to see. There was some static and crackling. I didn't want to say anything in front of your friend, sir. Good timing, Marcus. I have Natima's group working on a couple upgrades as well. He stayed close enough for the scientists to hear. I'll be right there, finished Nolan. With a nod to the research team, Nolan stepped out of the lab. He tapped his comm badge twice, and in another flash of light, he vanished, ready to face whatever challenges awaited him at Minor 2680. Nolan materialized on the bridge of the Havoc, the familiar hum of the massive ship systems greeting him. Alara, Minor 2680, if you please, he said, settling into the captain's chair. Course set, Nolan. Alara's melodious voice responded. Engaging blink drive. The stars outside the view screen elongated and then snapped back into place as the Havoc arrived at its destination. A barren, rust-colored planetoid filled the screen, unremarkable save for the small outpost visible on its surface. We've arrived at Minor 2680, Alara announced. The foreman, Marcus Des Moines, and his team are ready for transport. Nolan nodded. Bring them up. In a shimmer of light, Marcus and three other Neos appeared on the Havoc's expansive bridge. With a gesture from Nolan, a holographic conference table and chairs materialized, and he motioned for everyone to take a seat. As a rule, when in space, the Neos were all business, everyone pulling their weight and looking after each other, with safety paramount and adherence to stringent protocols when on duty. It's all fun and games planet-side, big meals, water parks, music, social activities, and nighttime games. But space mining is a very serious business, and it's the smallest mistakes that take lives. Report, Marcus, Nolan said as they settled in. Marcus tapped a few controls on the table, bringing up a holographic display of the mining operation. We've been field testing the new extraction protocols from Dr. Colmack's team. The results are, well, see for yourself. The display zoomed in, showing a real-time feed of the extraction process. Thin beams of energy penetrated the ground, and moments later, pure, shimmering latinum materialized in the cargo hold of a nearby shuttle. Impressive, Nolan said, his tone measured. Any issues? One of the other Neos, a young woman with close-cropped hair, spoke up. We're still having trouble with deeper deposits, sir. The signal degrades past about 500 meters. Nolan leaned back, considering. Why are we using that particular ship? And why is it in orbit? He leaned in and zoomed the model to the ground level. What if we ground a cargo ship? Make it look like it's under repair. We could use it for extraction via transporter. It'll get us deeper into the surface by saving the distance up to orbit. Marcus's eyes lit up. That could work, sir. We'd need to adjust our camouflage protocols, but it should significantly boost our range. Nolan nodded. Make it happen. Pick a ship with a big power output. Let me know if its captain gives you any grief. I'll also bring in additional sentry drones, scatter them around the nearest 6 sectors. Anything else you need to help the process. The tall, lanky Neo, who had been quiet until now, spoke up. Industrial replicators would speed things up considerably, sir, he stated. Dr. Colmack's upgrades usually require different size emitters and targeting scanners. Building by hand is just slows, he emphasized. Without a word, Nolan tapped his comm badge. Moments later, in a supply chamber inside the mine, the distinctive hum of a transporter filled the air as several industrial replicators materialized. Done, Nolan said. Now, efficiency numbers. We're seeing a 230% increase in extraction rates compared to traditional mining methods, the man reported. His voice professional, but unable to hide a hint of excitement. And that's with the current limitations. If we can solve the depth issue with your cargo ship idea, we could potentially quadruple that. Nolan nodded, satisfied. Oh, and sir, that's fully refined and ready to press, he whispered the last part while making his eyebrows hop up and down, a big grin on his face. Nolan couldn't help but to grin as well. The mood lightened. Good work, all of you. But let's not get ahead of ourselves. Marcus, I want you to work with Dr. Aldine's team on implementing these changes, and double-check our camouflage protocols. We can't afford any unwanted attention. The team nodded, understanding the gravity of their task. Any other concerns? Nolan asked, his gaze sweeping over the group. There was a moment of silence before Marcus spoke up. Sir, some of the team have expressed concerns about the long-term implications of this technology, if it falls into the wrong hands. Nolan's expression remained impassive, but his voice carried a note of steel when he responded. That's precisely why we're keeping this operation small and secure. Your concerns are noted, but remember, this technology could revolutionize resource extraction across our system. It's no different than our transporter replicators, enhanced transporter capabilities over distance, the blink drive, or even Alara. OPSEC is crucial, and not just in the creation phase. The team leaned into his words, their faith in Nolan's vision evident. All this tech we use every day is a century ahead of anything in the quadrant. The Neos looked at each other in agreement. Very true, sir. Sometimes we forget, Marcus added. All right, Nolan said, wrapping up the meeting. Get back down there and keep at it. I want daily reports on your progress. Dismissed. As Marcus and his team prepared to beam back to the surface, Nolan made a subtle gesture to Alara. In their cramped underground chow hall, a transporter replicators materialized. Nolan knew they'd discover this reward for their hard work once they returned to the mine's interior, a small token of appreciation for their dedication and a reminder of the importance of their mission. The team disappeared in a shimmer of light, leaving Nolan alone on the bridge. He turned his attention to the view screen, the nondescript planetoid hiding one of the greatest technological and economic game-changers in recent galactic history. The weight of that knowledge settled on him, not as a burden, but as a familiar companion. Another secret to be carefully managed for the greater good, or at least his own greater good. Back on Empire North, Nolan stood in his quarters, facing the large view screen. With a tap of his comm badge, Lieutenant Jadzia Dax's face appeared. Lieutenant Dax, I hope I'm not intruding. I received a package today I thought you might enjoy. Dax let out a hearty laugh. Is it explosive? Nolan stood in mock indignation, his face a perfect picture of wounded pride. One time. He held up an aggravated index finger. One time. I accidentally beam over a Cardassian artifact. How could I know it was explosive? Because it was Cardassian. She bounced right back, laughing. What is it this time? Nolan held up a cup of steaming coffee and tipped his head forward. Grown, roasted, and ground on horizon, just arrived today. Care to join me for a cup? Are you free? Worf's away on a mission. I've been going stir-crazy. I was just thinking about how to spend my day, actually. And I always start it with coffee, so... She disappeared from the screen in a whirl of light. Dax rematerialized on the sofa at the far end of Nolan's private quarters. As he approached, he realized he hadn't paid attention. "Are you decent?" "I'm decent, but I'm completely naked. Don't you dare come over here and ogle my beautiful young body with those old man eyes." She continued to laugh, the sound filling the room with warmth. Nolan arrived to find Dax, of course, completely clothed in civilian attire. Her eyes were fixed on the coffee pot. "I can smell the coffee from here," she said, reaching for the pot. "This is the first new coffee growth in hundreds of years, Nolan. How did you manage it?" She lifted the pot from the old-fashioned coffee maker and poured a cup, watching the rich brown liquid swirl in the pot. Putting the pot back, she turned her focus to the freshly poured cup and breathed in deeply. "Outstanding," she murmured, taking a sip. Nolan settled into a chair opposite her, his own cup in hand. "This will sound a little nuts, but a lot of my people love Admiral Janeway. They've been working on growing coffee just for her." Dax raised an eyebrow, a smile playing at her lips. "Janeway does have quite the reputation as a coffee enthusiast. I'm sure she'd appreciate this." She took another sip, savoring the flavor. "It's remarkable, Nolan. Rich, complex, there's almost a hint of caramel in the aftertaste." Nolan nodded, pleased. "The team on Horizon will be thrilled to hear that. They've put years of work into this project." They sat in comfortable silence for a moment, enjoying their coffee. Dax's eyes wandered around the room, taking in the mix of antique and futuristic decor that reflected Nolan's unique life experience. "You know," she said thoughtfully, "sometimes I forget just how long you've been around. Even with all my lifetimes, you've got me beat." Nolan's expression softened slightly. "It's not a competition, Jadzia. Besides, I spent 180 of those years plugged into a machine. You actually have more years of conscious experience. But I genuinely do appreciate having someone around who understands the weight of centuries, as they're always saying." Dax nodded, her eyes knowing. "The perspective it gives you, it's both a blessing and a curse, isn't it? Watching civilizations rise and fall, seeing the same mistakes repeated, and the same triumphs achieved," Nolan added. "It's all part of the cycle." It was quiet for a bit, both drinking coffee. The conversation had gotten too heavy and stalled. Nolan was lost in his memories as the Enconite commander in the Mestat War. As they finished their coffee, Dax stood, straightening her tunic. Nolan handed a prepackaged 5-pound bag of the fresh coffee to Dax. "This was wonderful, Nolan. Thank you for sharing it with me." Nolan rose as well. "My pleasure. And Jadzia, be sure to share a cup or two with the crew, okay?" Nolan turned quickly. "Oh, and what do you think about sending some of this to Janeway?" Dax's face lit up. "I think she'd love it. It might even earn you some goodwill with Starfleet." She made a mock scowl on her face. Nolan chuckled and tossed his head side to side. "We'll see about that. Take care, Dax." After Dax beamed back to DS9, Nolan set about preparing a package for Janeway. He waited until the station's quiet hours, the hour or two when the fewest people were moving about. Tapping on his floating console, the corridors of Empire North dimmed, lights going out everywhere but Ops, the labs, and the medical center. Nolan's quarters remained fully illuminated as he focused on the task at hand. He knew the power required to send the package directly to Earth, bypassing all of Starfleet's considerable shielding, was immense. But as he sealed the package of coffee with a red bow, a small smile played at his lips. Sometimes, he mused, the most powerful gestures were also the simplest. With a final tap on the console, lights above flickered as the package disappeared in a shimmer of light, bound for Admiral Janeway's office on Earth. Nolan settled back in his chair as the lights dimmed, flickered, and came back to full power. He wondered what ripples this small act might create in the vast ocean of galactic politics. He casually started tapping the console. From outside Empire North, we see lights coming back on inside and outside of the station. Force. The familiar view of Starfleet Academy in San Francisco sprawled across the screen, the iconic spires gleaming under the midday sun. Inside, Admiral Janeway sat behind her desk, feet propped up as she read from a pad. A formidable pile of additional pads lay before her. The tranquil ambiance was interrupted by the door chime. "Come in," Janeway called, her voice authoritative yet welcoming as she awakened from deep in her reading. She placed her feet on the floor and leaned forward in her chair, grabbing another pad as the doors swooshed open and Admiral Paris stepped inside. Janeway swiftly tossed the pads aside and stood up. Admiral Paris. What a lovely surprise. To what do I owe the pleasure? Her voice carried genuine warmth. "Good to see you, Catherine," Paris responded, his smile matching hers. They shook hands, a moment of camaraderie passing between them. "I wanted to see if you'd had any luck with those equations for the Midas array." "Please, sit down." Janeway gestured to the chairs. They both settled into chairs on the same side of Janeway's desk. She held up two pads, ready to discuss the details. Suddenly, a shimmering light began swirling on Janeway's desk. Both admirals leaped to their feet, Paris instinctively tapping his comm badge. "Paris to security. We need a team in Admiral Janeway's office." The shimmering light ceased abruptly. "Belay that, security." Janeway commanded into her comm. She exchanged a puzzled look with Admiral Paris. "Well, it doesn't exactly look like a Genesis bomb, does it?" She cautiously approached her desk. A small, tightly packed brown paper bag adorned with a red bow sat innocuously on the desk. "Were you expecting this?" Paris asked, his brow furrowing as he examined the tag under the bow. "For Admiral Janeway, a late welcome home from the farmers of Horizon. Love, Nolan." Janeway picked up the bag, bringing it to her nose. As she inhaled deeply, her eyes fluttered shut. "Oh my," she exhaled, her voice breathy with pleasure. "That is just—" Paris interrupted her reverie, his tone cautious. "What is it?" "Is it safe? Humanity's lost son has seen fit to gift me with 5 pounds of real, fresh ground, roasted coffee beans." She shook her head in disbelief, a smile playing on her lips. "There is nothing like it." She handed the bag to Paris and turned toward the window. "I've often wondered what Starfleet was thinking when they chased him from Earth all those years ago." Turning back to the Admiral, "No one ever tried to bring him back home." There was a note of melancholy in her voice that only she could truly understand. Paris also took a whiff of the aromatic package. "That is something," he said, handing it back to her, his tone somber. "Catherine, I hope you understand that if I had known of Mercer's capabilities—" "I'll hear no more of that, Owen," Janeway interrupted, waving her hand dismissively. "We've been over it 100 times. You and your team did everything possible, at great professional and personal expense." She walked over to a small countertop in the corner of her office. "Now, can I get you a cup of coffee?" She smiled, holding up the package invitingly. Later that evening, the San Francisco skyline glittered against the night sky, a tapestry of lights visible through the large windows of Admiral Janeway's quarters. She sat in a comfortable armchair, still in her uniform, though the jacket was draped over a nearby chair. A steaming cup of coffee rested on the side table, its rich aroma filling the dimly lit room. Janeway gazed at the cityscape for a moment before turning to her personal computer terminal. "Computer, a secure channel to Nolan Mercer," she commanded, her voice quiet but firm in the evening stillness. After a brief pause, Nolan Mercer's face appeared on the screen, surprise evident in his features. "Admiral Janeway," he said, eyebrows raised. "It's great to see you." Janeway smiled warmly, reaching for her coffee cup. "Mr. Mercer, I hope I'm not disturbing you. I wanted to thank you personally for the coffee. It's exquisite." She took a sip, savoring the flavor. Nolan's face flashed a big, crooked smile, one corner of his mouth lifting in appreciation before quickly relaxing again. "The farmers on Horizon will be genuinely thrilled to hear that," he replied. his voice carrying a note of satisfaction. "I'm glad it arrived safely." "It did," Janeway chuckled softly, "though it caused quite a stir in my office earlier today. Everyone is scurrying around trying to figure out how you transported through all our planetary defenses." She paused, her expression growing more serious in the soft lamplight. "Nolan, I hope you know that not everyone in Starfleet views you as a threat." Nolan's face hardened almost imperceptibly. "Then I must be doing something wrong," he said flatly. Janeway leaned forward, her eyes earnest, the city lights twinkling behind her. "For the record, I've always advocated for bringing you and your people into the Federation, under the Starfleet banner. Your knowledge, your technology, it could benefit so many." A shadow passed over Nolan's face, and when he spoke, his voice wavered. "Unfortunately, Admiral, my brief time under the Starfleet banner was spent in a jail cell." He looked away, feeling all that disappointment all over again. Janeway winced slightly at his words, regret etching lines around her eyes. "I know," she said softly, the darkness outside seeming to emphasize the weight of the past. "And I can't change what happened 100 years ago, but perhaps we can work toward a different future, Nolan. One where you're not constantly having to look over your shoulder." Nolan's expression softened slightly. A hint of wariness remained in his eyes. He seemed to choose his words carefully. "The past casts long shadows, Admiral. It's not always easy to step into the light." "I understand," Janeway nodded, gesturing to her coffee cup. "But maybe this can be a first step. A taste of home, as it were." A thoughtful look crossed Nolan's face, followed by a slight smile. "Speaking of taste," he said, his tone warming, "if you really want to experience what Horizon has to offer, you should join me for breakfast on mornings sometime. We've perfected the art of a real, home-cooked meal out here." Janeway's eyebrows rose in pleasant surprise. "Breakfast on morning. That sounds wonderful. What did you have in mind?" "Picture this," Nolan said, his eyes lighting up. "Fresh eggs from real chickens, crispy bacon, sausage, and ham from real scrofa, hash browns made from Idaho potatoes, pancakes with real maple syrup, and, of course, plenty of this coffee you're enjoying right now." Janeway couldn't help but smile at his enthusiasm. "That does sound tempting. It's been a long time since I've had a breakfast that wasn't replicated." Nolan nodded, his expression becoming more serious. "It could also be an opportunity to talk more openly, away from the constraints of official channels." Janeway considered this for a moment, understanding the weight of what Nolan was proposing. "That's a generous offer, Nolan, and one I'm inclined to accept, though I'd need to clear it through those official channels." "Of course," Nolan rolled his eyes slightly, a hint of his earlier guardedness returning. "I understand the protocols involved. When you've sorted out the details on your end, let me know. We can make it happen instantly if you like." Janeway's face brightened, the warm light in her quarters reflecting her hope. "I will. And Nolan, thank you. Not just for the coffee or the breakfast invitation, but for reaching out, for being willing to launch this dialogue." Nolan nodded, a flicker of warmth in his eyes. "You're welcome, Admiral," he said quietly. "I look forward to breakfast." Mercer out. The screen went dark, leaving Janeway alone with her thoughts. She turned back to the window, cradling the warm cup in her hands, her gaze drifting over the nighttime cityscape. The challenges ahead were formidable, but for the first time in a long while she felt a glimmer of hope for a reconciliation with one of humanity's most enigmatic figures. The prospect of a shared meal on Horizon seemed like more than just a breakfast. It could be the beginning of a new chapter in their complex history. At the same time, Nolan ordered the lights in his quarters to darken. His head sunk into his hands, and his soul sunk into the depths. He had no more tears for this topic. Eek. Epilogue. On the farm colonies of Horizon, massive domes stretch into the distance, with fields and livestock-dotted pastures as far as the eye can see. Inside of one dome we hear 3 quick beeps repeating, and we see various farm colony workers turning toward view screens. Nolan Mercer's face appeared on the screen, surprise evident in his features. Admiral Janeway, he said, eyebrows raised. It's great to see you. Janeway appeared and smiled warmly, reaching for her coffee cup. Mr. Mercer, I hope I'm not disturbing you. I wanted to thank you personally for the coffee. It's exquisite. She took a sip, savoring the flavor. Nolan's voice came in as we watched Janeway take another sip. The farmers on Horizon will be genuinely thrilled to hear that, he replied, his voice carrying a note of satisfaction. I'm glad it arrived safely. Ag workers, engineers, and everyone in the endless ag operation stood in shock, looking at each other. Suddenly everyone, nearly in unison, gave out a loud, long cheer and began applauding and hugging each other, some in tears.